that permanently on because every single time I have to manually do it.
Nope.
No, I haven't found that yet.
What's up, bitches?
What's up, man?
So what's everybody drinking?
I'm gonna go back to the sexy voice. Busch Light, sponsored, official sponsor.
Yeah. I am trying a Summit Saga IPA, and I'm not gonna lie, it's not my favorite. It's not my favorite IPA.
It's because Bob Saget made it.
I'm currently working with a $4 bottle of Barefoot Malbec.
Yes,
because
my
because I know how to take advantage of a fairway sale.
You're a fucking couponer, aren't you?
Oh fuck yeah! No joke, 100% serious. I have a subscription to the Des Moines paper, Sunday paper, specifically for the coupons.
Coupons.
Nice.
Coupons.
Let me give you. I'm gonna give you my hot take. I'm gonna give you the freshest deal that I got.
Ooh.
So there's the 2017 Blue Ribbon Bacon Fest here in Des Moines, Iowa.
Yes.
The
It's a
winner
great
for
event,
best
by the way.
bacon. The best in-show bacon was the Chipotle garlic bacon from someone called Cloverdale Bacon.
Sounds fucking
And so
terrible.
they had a coupon, buy one get one free. It's
Keep
normally
throwing away
$6.
free ads.
It's
Massive.
normally $6 for a pound. All right, and
Yeah.
I got 2 pounds of bacon for $5 because it was when I got there to buy it, there was an additional $1 off. So I paid $5 for $12 worth of bacon.
Nice.
That's a good deal.
And what are all of you guys doing with your lives? Not shit. Not shit. Not couponing like me.
Being sponsored by Busch Light, so. It'd be funny if they tried suing me because I said I was being sponsored by them. We want nothing to do with this fucking shit. Please do not ever say Busch Light ever again. Speaking of which,
But
before this game starts, I
Spencer
better
guy,
get
he can
refreshed.
say it because he's got a 3.0 KDR, and we'll take
Yep.
that kind of representation.
Did everybody
Yeah,
get
I
an
mean,
invite?
you want that kind of representation.
Yep.
Just
I
like
got it. Cool.
my Four Roses small batch whiskey that I just poured.
Oh shit! Zach doesn't even
Chappie,
know.
you'll have
does
to. Yeah, he'll have to
Is
include his audio.
That's Zach. What's that?
Zach, go to your group, and then look at the group underneath it. There should be a box that says "Include my audio." Check it.
I'm actually a little worried that I might run out of Busch Lights and I might have to drink vodka.
Oh god.
That's gonna up your game.
What are we rolling here? Just Rush?
Oh no! If
Yeah.
I have to get into the vodka,
Yeah.
it's gonna be fucking game over.
Okay. Let's see.
You don't have to.
What?
The
Nah,
moves.
this is gonna be a hard one to start her off with.
Yep.
Yeah, we've got to
Jeez, 3 snipers up.
get a
the
bunch of
nose.
kills right here. Fuck.
What are we playing?
This looks like Rush.
I wasn't even fucking paying attention.
Yep,
can
play a
imagine.
little
I'm
Rush.
in A.
Smaller squads, fewer people,
I'm with you, Gambino.
can dominate a
Alright.
little bit more.
All right. So concerning
I don't-
the
I-
conspiracy this week, where does everybody kind of stand as far as the moon landing?
So I'm gonna just come out and say I am not completely sold, but I think I lean more towards at least most of them happened. Perhaps maybe not Apollo 11.
Okay. I'm going to agree
Okay.
with you on that. I don't think that we initially landed on the moon the first time, but I think that we have been to the moon.
Yeah, I'm gonna say we never have.
I'm going to take it one step further. Not only do I think we landed on the moon starting with Apollo... Well, not only did the Americans land Apollo 11, I think the Chinese landed it in the first several centuries BCE.
Oh my
It's a bold claim.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear your theory on that.
Can't wait
No,
to
in all
hear about
seriousness, in all seriousness, we landed Apollo 11 and everything subsequently.
Okay.
Okay.
I got you covered at A, by the way. I'm gonna say I'm actually going to agree 100% with Masick on this.
I'm getting
one.
ready to arm B. Arming B.
Got the crap blown out of us by artillery there.
We need a subject where Masick and Spencer disagree.
That's probably not going to happen. They're both fairly
'Cause
logical.
sometimes it's just not fair.
There's got to be something out there.
Watch out to your left, Masick.
Yeah, good look,
Straight
Spence.
ahead of you.
I mean,
Coming.
There's two coming, Spence.
Oh, I
Where?
picked up someone's gun. Damn it.
I see him.
So, who wants to kick off their thinking, providing the evidence that they have in regards to their position?
Well, I think to be fair, this is just going to be my argument going forward for any subsequent conspiracy. I think the onus should be on the conspiracists. So I think they should be the one to be the opening salvo.
Okay, that makes sense, especially since the
Okay.
conspiracists are in the minority as far as national
Let me
polls go.
flip to page 3.
Here's ammo.
Page 3 of how many pages?
It's awesome.
9. 8.5.
Oh
I
God!
fuck up my battlefield game. One of the biggest things for me is the Van Allen radiation belt, but I'm gonna come
Yeah.
back to that.
Okay, so we got Van Allen radiation belt. What else?
And then
What else we got?
certain deaths surrounding some
Oh,
suspicious
okay.
deaths surrounding.
Watch out! Watch out!
Moon landing. Where are you at? Come on. And then, I mean, we have Capricorn 1 that's going to come out at some point. Not quite there
Is
yet.
that a Battlestar Galactica reference?
Yeah.
No, it's a movie that was pretty much making fun of the moon landing.
Oh man, our hardcore battlefield or Battlestar
Battlestar and
followers
Battlefield.
they're I mean they're really gonna like that reference. Okay.
We're gonna have all those Battlestar fans on Twitch, and we're gonna draw that niche market and milk the shit out of it.
Science fiction movie Space Odyssey. We'll come back to that.
Yep. Okay.
Then I have a page that's pretty much blank, so that one doesn't really count.
Oh man.
That's for additional notes.
God, I'm really good at shooting people in the leg and not killing them.
Oh. Oh my God. Yeah, I was gonna say that guy. I shot him so much and he didn't die. All right.
And Adam's in the water. Yep, behind you, Spence. He's not looking at you or anything.
Okay. Because there's a lot to my front. I don't have the luxury to turn around at this
I'm
point.
arming A right now.
Alright, I'm spawning on you, stay alive.
Okay.
I'm way in
So-
the back behind B if somebody wants to spawn on me. Just kind of sit and tight.
Okay, go D.
So here's where I'll start. So the Apollo landings were one of the most important events in human history, yet NASA has lost or destroyed virtually all evidence of it happening.
What would you define as evidence?
A picture, video. I mean, I guess you have some sort. I mean, what do you have for evidence that it actually happened?
Well,
I
no,
guess?
but I thought
Since
that's
it's
kind of
so
the whole
clear.
case that people have is that like one of the things I commonly hear is like, well, look at these photos. The shadow's popping up on this angle, but at a different angle,
Yeah.
it's a different shadow.
Yep.
I mean, there is
Yep.
tons of photos that are around there.
And,
I guess I don't- and
Yeah, but
there's-
they're all. But okay, but they're all. They all have questions surrounding them.
We have armed objective butter.
No,
So let's
I
go
don't
with the
disagree that.
questions.
I don't disagree that, but I'm like, what? What do you mean by the evidence was destroyed or whatever?
I mean, there's virtually no substantial or for sure evidence that it actually happened.
There technically is a video of the moon.
Pretty much
landing.
everything that, yeah, that can be
Both objectives.
Nice.
like
Cool,
broken
guys.
down and
Wait for the enemy
And
artillery
shown,
barrage to stop
like you
firing.
can see different things that are wrong with every video, every picture.
Return to the combat area.
Well, so I'll start with a few things. Well, like definitive evidence that we could have to put in favor of it. So we did obviously anybody that was in Cape Canaveral at the time would have seen the shuttle have taken off in the first
Yep.
place.
Rocket took
We
off.
have over the course of not just Apollo 11, but all of the various Apollo missions that actually made it to the moon, that they brought back. I don't know how many hundreds of kilos worth of moon rocks. We've got obviously
Kilos.
I was gonna say, are we going to be using the?
Kilos.
Yeah, we got
Kilos
we're
of
going-
space
we're
rocket
going metric
petrol.
with this shit.
They heat treated it with petrol.
We've got tons of moon rocks that they brought back. We've got photos, we've got video, we've got the
How do you
broadcast
prove that they are moon rocks?
I mean, so
The period.
No one
Based
knows
off
what
of-
I mean, no one really knows what a moon rock is. So you could pass
well,
off
so
anything as a
cannot-
moon
I
rock.
I could not definitively tell you with 100% certainty where any one rock came
Okay.
from, right? I mean, there's
All right,
but
sir.
what we could say is just based on the appearance of the moon, there's a thing called albedo, which is a reference to the reflectiveness and how much light will bounce off of something. We know off of something like that. That's how we can tell, based off of different planets that are light years and light years and light years away, what their chemical composition is, and so whether it's like possible of sustaining life. We know based on what light bounces back to us what the chemical composition is. So something as close as the moon, we would certainly know that it's a what the elemental composition would be, and the moon rocks are similar to that. It falls in line with what we'd expect it to. So I'm not saying with 100% certainty that alone would prove it came from the moon, because I'm going to take without having done my research on this subject, I'm going to assume whatever the moon is made out of, you can
Jesus,
find the same
sounds like you
element
did
here on
research.
Earth. No. Again, this is not in this particular area.
God damn it, Masick. No, I didn't do any research, but I know all
No,
about
I'm
it anyway.
not specifically for this.
Describe
Right
the
here.
exact.
Not specifically on this one. I did not know. Like
Let me
I walked
tell you
into-
about
I
libido.
walked in. I walked into last week. No, that's just from playing Mass Effect. I know what the term albedo is. Like, you explore so many planets, you eventually will pick something up. No, like I walked into last week's cast and it was just like, God damn, I don't know the first thing about like Hitler dying in the bunker. So, no, glad I know a little bit about the moon stuff.
Okay.
So what have I said? So we've got the moon rocks.
You
We've got the
you
transition.
were talking about the,
We've got
the
the-
takeoff.
We've got the shuttle leaving. We've
Hey,
got.
Let me go to that point.
This is the portion where
I
Derek is
really
sitting
think
through his 9
that
pages
actually
of-
happened. No,
Okay,
I'm not. I'm
D,
trying
can
to
I
play
interject real
Battlefield.
quick?
Sure.
Do you think we at least got into low orbit off the,
God, you'd have to describe to me
Launched.
what low orbit is.
like, just
No,
orbiting outside
yeah.
Earth?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a
Okay.
certain.
So kind
certain
of
radius
like
that-
like what the space station is currently doing. I mean, it's not low orbit, but that sort of concept.
Jesus Christ, man. It's like
One of my
I can't
body
fucking
massive
follow you.
I jumped that wall and
No, I
landed on a grenade.
Definitely
That was-
believe that the ship actually took off and it was orbiting. But I think like there's video of
There's one on
them
A.
like messing with, so they're like, I can't remember
The enemy
the
has
exact
refused objective
mileage
apples.
off of Earth. But in other words, they never crossed, what the hell was it called?
Basically, they were just orbiting the Earth for 8 days.
Yeah, and then they were orbiting it for 8 days, and then making like videos and showing Earth. But they were actually like, there's a video showing the dude that was running the camera manipulating the camera and messing with like the shadows and stuff on the Earth to make it look like it was different at different times and blah blah blah. Like he was like, you could actually at one point see him like move the shadow. Certain distance, which was not the moon, and then manipulated all the cameras. Well, there's
So-
only like what, one camera?
So
Okay, I'm
they
gonna stop you right there.
manipulated
We're
cameras,
playing
like in a
against-
studio, or
No,
go
sorry.
ahead, Adam.
Go-
Yeah.
No, I was gonna say we're playing against a guy whose gamer tag is Arik Bauerin.
Eric Baldwin?
Eric
Baldwin.
Arik Bauerin.
The Film Actors Guild.
So please, no, sorry, I apologize. We have a audience that needs to hear what we have to say.
Yeah.
Spencer, please repeat what your question was.
Okay, so there was apparently the recording. Are you talking about a recording of them on the moon, or a recording of them?
No,
so they're
no, no.
orbiting
When
the
they're
Earth
orbiting.
8 days, or
Yeah. So I think they just orbited for 8 days, never even got past the Van Allen radiation. But there's actual footage that I watched that was from their camera where they were actually manipulating the shadows, because so the camera was pointed straight at Earth, and then they were manipulating the shadow of Earth. And at one point, like, he messes up, and the shadow like moves off Earth, so you can see the whole Earth, and then he like quickly brings it back and covers up the right side of Earth to mess with the shadow.
so. I guess to clarify, so you're saying that they were in space and somehow
Yes, they
were
definitely were.
manipulating the shadow of the Earth.
Yeah, they definitely were. They definitely weren't. No, they were manipulating the shadow with the camera.
But they made it to space.
Yes. he thinks
Absolutely, they
made it
went.
to space,
Yes,
yeah.
absolutely.
Okay.
Like the takeoff was real. They were definitely
Okay.
orbiting, but they had never. I mean, they were so far behind. There's no way they could have
So far
figured that
behind
out
the
so
Russians, you
quickly.
mean?
Oh yeah. Yeah, so far behind technology-wise, and the only thing that was not behind was...
That is one point that I disagree with. I think technologically, we were more advanced than the Russians, pretty much from the start of the Cold War to the end of the Cold War.
Well, I mean,
I looked
they're
at
partially
both
right.
sides.
So I mean, like Sputnik and getting the first man into space, the Russians initially at the very beginning were ahead of us, but very quickly we surpassed them.
Yes, that's true. But I think what Demas is saying is, like, even though as advanced as we were ahead of the Russians, like, our capabilities didn't seem to demonstrate the ability to get to the moon at that point.
No, there were.
I think is what
there
Derek's
were
trying to say.
several, I mean, there were
Okay, yeah.
failed
They weren't capable.
attempts, like very shortly before that actually just.
One lane down to my
Actually
body
happened.
mass, so be careful.
Okay, that makes a little bit more sense.
I'm arming.
Kobe, if you can make it into the next room, we're gonna help
Another
you for
thing
it.
was
We have armed objective apples.
another weird thing is James Webb, NASA's highest-ranking official, resigned days before the Apollo mission.
Planting again.
So, like, he's
Cover the
on
door.
the,
Cover the door.
threshold of one of the greatest accomplishments in United States history, and he resigns a few days before they actually launch. Like, why would anyone do that?
Is that the guy that took the picture of the lemon hanging on the shuttle?
No, that was Buzz Aldrin.
That was one
I
of the
think.
actual astronauts.
Yeah, I
But
think
he
that was
died
Buzz
in an
Aldrin.
accident, in a test accident. No,
He
Buzz
died
didn't
in
do
a
that.
yeah.
No,
He
Buzz
died.
Aldrin didn't do the lemon.
It was
Picture.
here. Hold on. It was Gus
Yeah, I was
Grissom.
gonna say Buzz Aldrin did
Yeah,
not die in
Gus
a text
Grissom.
It was Gus Grissom, and then he
By the bomb.
later died mysteriously Let me see if I can find that.
The enemy has defused objective apples.
What the heck?
How? How did they
know.
defuse the bomb?
I thought that the guy who
got a
hung
guy.
the
3
lemon
guys and a tank
was
right there.
the
Well, I was reviving people and killing people in the
one
other room.
who.
I couldn't also get the guy on the diffuser.
Nah, it's not your fault. You were doing
Sorry.
your job.
Go ahead, Cobe.
The enemy has defused objective
I thought the guy that
apples.
who hung the lemon was the guy who was like basically quote unquote, like assassinated in the shuttle when they were doing the test mission on the shuttle. Where like the
Yeah,
three
that was
astronauts
Gus
died.
Grissom.
Yeah.
Yes, it was
And then,
Grissom.
yeah, and then. Okay, so. State of
We gotta get this
program
on.
killed just a week later. So then, a NASA safety inspector, Thomas Barron, delivered a highly critical report on the state of the program after the Buzz Aldrin death, and was killed a week later in a car accident. His report subsequently vanished, heightening suspicion of conspiracy. So then Buzz Aldrin, Gus Grissom, the capsule that he died in is at Area 51, has never been messed with, has never been examined. There's no reasoning of why the capsule actually caught fire. And he was one of the skeptics of the US's NASA, I guess
The
he
program.
was getting
has itself.
frustrated in general. Yeah, just that
Mhm.
he knew that they were not up to par and it was never going to happen. Yeah, so he was so disenchanted with the progress they were making that he hung a lemon on the Apollo lander because they felt so far behind and they had thought that they had little chance of making it to the moon in time to fulfill Kennedy's promise. So then in May of '68, Neil Armstrong was almost killed in a failed test. So in May of '68, Neil Armstrong almost died in a failed test.
Mhm.
So if they were unable to successfully, that was their first try. If they were unable to, that was their first try at the landing back to Earth. So, and probably just over a year later, everything perfectly meshed on their first full attempt, and they successfully landed on the moon and then landed back on Earth 1 year later.
Okay.
Which is not a lot of time.
Does anybody know when like we initially went to the moon? Does anybody know like when like the next time that we went, like how long after that was?
I don't know specifically, but I know. I mean, so I know the last time we landed on the moon was in the '70s, and the first time was '69. So if there were, I know there were 6 landings total, and then Apollo 13 messed up. So I'd imagine at most a year and a half.
Yeah.
Which I
Gotcha.
think Apollo 13 actually made it to the moon, and they just did the mess up so they could make a lot of money off that movie years later. Personally.
Yeah, that's. I mean, Tom Hanks was really angling for an Oscar, so.
Are you trying to get those movies in there?
Oh man.
Apollo 13.
Capricorn 1.
Watch it.
Sent to our artillery.
So as far as like the radiation field goes, I think that Apollo 13 kind of debunks that, because with the Apollo 13 mission, they literally used the moon to slingshot past it because they didn't have enough gas to literally like turn around and thrust back.
Yes.
Enemy has armed objective
So when people are
bunkers.
saying, well, you couldn't make it to the radiation belt, well, obviously they did, because
Well,
that's
the-
how they got back to the other Earth was going around the moon instead of landing on it.
Obviously, Kobe.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, obviously. It was that easy.
The enemy has armed objective apples.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were one of those dirty Arabs.
No, I'm not.
We have defused objective apples.
You guys need some help down there. I got a shitload of them trying to kill me on the ridge right
I mean,
now.
they're,
And they're gonna get me. Shit.
reports saying that the Van Allen radiation belt is like so deadly that it penetrates metal, and so I'm not real sure how.
Well, I might need to
Which was
check this,
one
like,
of the biggest
I thought-
holdups of the whole mission in general was that radiation belt.
Well, I'd have to double check that. I swear I thought, because I remember, cause I took, when I went to Iowa, the math building was called the Van Allen building, because it was named after the professor who had found it. I swear I thought the Van Allen radiation belt was actually outside of our solar system. I didn't realize that that was in between us and the moon.
I guess it is. I mean, like, I don't know that much about. The only reason why I obviously know of that in general is just from reading about this topic, but I don't really know exactly where it is or whatnot. But that was, from reports, that was one of the biggest hang-ups that they had with actually getting to the moon.
We have lost.
Was the radiation
And then
because they
I
said
told
it penetrates
you-
metal. Yeah, you told
I
me
did,
that
and-
it's like
Yeah, they
ahead,
they
go ahead.
basically said that in all reality, with the amount of time that it takes for them to pass through, which I think they said was like 10 minutes, 10 or 40 minutes, I can't remember, it wasn't very long, but they said that the amount of radiation that they would have actually been exposed
Subjected
to is
to.
not much.
Yeah.
Yeah, subjected to is not much more than a chest X-ray. Is what I read when I was reading, because I went
Which
and read a bunch of
seems-
the
seems
debunk
crazy
things.
to think that it was like that simple of a thing, but it was like that's the amount of radiation that they would
Right.
feel, but that was the biggest hang up in NASA is trying to figure out how to get past that.
Yeah.
So like, how do they know that that's?
Right.
I mean,
And on
how
the
do they
off
know
chance
now?
that it
Yeah,
could not
they
even
could
be
know now.
anything.
And I mean,
Right.
they sent like monkeys and dogs and stuff into space, so it's not like they had no idea what they were getting into. Like,
Which then that's another subject, animal cruelty, that we're gonna get into.
All right, so let's jump just to push discussion out there, and I have arguments on both sides, but let's talk about some of the theories regarding, like Mazik talked about shadows, talked about
Shadows are a big thing, yeah.
flag waving, footprints.
Yep, flag waving.
The thruster.
What?
How there's
So I
Thrust
want
not
to
leaving
the
an imprint.
I want to give Demas an apology. I was confusing two different things. I was confusing the Van Allen belt with the Kuiper belt. The Kuiper belt is what I was thinking of.
That's outside the our
old
universe.
construction.
yeah,
trade
that's like a
feature.
bunch of
Yeah, Mr. Kuiper.
yeah.
Yes,
The
it is
Kuiper
literally the
belt's
belt
like a bunch of,
that held
like,
up that
asteroids and
tremendous
stuff,
girth.
right?
Enemy coordinates have been sent to our artillery.
So no, please continue.
You get the guy
Nolan?
spins. There's another one there. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just moving up. Yeah, they're all
There's one
dead.
going to be around behind us.
Got him.
Who
One walking
who
the
wants to
water
kick it
door.
off?
Well,
It's already been kicked.
Well, I mean, like specifically the errors in the moon footage.
Okay, let's Jesus, idiot. Let's just start with something easy like the flag blowing. If anybody wants to address that.
I'll address that. So I think the common thing was what that it. So obviously the moon's a vacuum, right? And so the
Yep.
concern was like it shouldn't be flapping around because there's no actual error resistance for it to
Right.
flap around in.
And then the
So
conspiracy
basically-
theories say that it indicated like air conditioning or something was on in the thing. And I'm not saying I
Right,
agree,
so-
but I'm just stating out thoughts there.
Right. So I mean, what I read was like you can actually look at some of the footage. Like if you go frame by frame, like you can see the astronaut moving around, and in oftentimes it would just be sitting there. And that the reason that you would see it be moving around is they had recently touched it. And so something in a vacuum, it's something in a
moving,
vacuum.
it's
when you
going
touch
to
it,
continue to move.
It's going to act
Yeah.
like a pendulum. because there's no again,
Right.
there's no resistance to
Correct.
it to pull it down in the first place.
Yeah. And that in one of the later moon landings, they drop a feather and a hammer, and they both drop at the same weight or at the same rate, even though they're different weights because there's no resistance. And Masik, what's the physics term for that? It's Newtonian physics. I know that.
Bullshit, I think is what it's called.
Yeah. But it's like, so what that would have to be, you'd have to have a vacuum chamber that would be big enough to actually show, I don't know, it would have to be probably gigantic, like the size of a gym, to actually
To be able to
do
film
that.
something like
Like,
that and also
correct.
actually be able to do it.
Yeah,
Ah.
exactly. Like, so, I mean,
We have lost both objectives.
that I think is a pretty good, I guess, proof that they were
Yeah.
at least on the moon at one point, because it's like you can't have like a gym-sized vacuum chamber, like
You can.
even NASA now doesn't even have a vacuum chamber that large. So,
But you could if you wanted to fund it and make it happen. There's
Yeah, I
definitely
know,
the
but
capability to do it.
The enemy is advancing.
So let me just ask this question, Devos, because you said you thought we did make at least low Earth orbit. We made it into space.
Yeah.
Why do you feel like we have the capability of making it into space, but didn't actually go to the moon itself?
I think it was more of a morale ploy than anything.
No. I'm not
For the
talking about a
corp-
motivational thing. I'm like, if we had the
Oh, 'cause
technology
we-
to make
yeah,
it into
we-
space, why couldn't we actually make
we've
it
made
to
it-
the moon itself?
Because we
Going to
made it in
A.
space before. I mean, we've orbited and but the moon was like an untouchable object at that point. And then I mean, we were so far, like, just reading about, like, where NASA was at that point, and, like, how many failed tests they had, and how far they actually were from
The enemy has armed objective butter.
even coming close to getting to the moon. It's just, to
So
me,
it's
it's not
not-
even logical that in a year that they just miraculously figured all these fucking problems out and made it happen.
so your point
and then,
is, it's not so much that they didn't have the capability; they just didn't have the capability at that point in time.
no, at that point in time, I don't think they had the capability to make it happen. Definitely not at that time. Later on, possibly.
We have lost
But,
objective
I mean, okay, so there was like a report in 2005 from NASA that even talked about or why we haven't revisited the moon, and they were talking about Van Allen's belt still being one of the biggest problems that they would run into. How to get past that. How to not mess with the radiation. Or just how to figure out how to sweep through it without affecting, like, the ship or the people in it. I mean, that was a report in 2005 that was saying it was still a problem. So, like, how did they figure it out in less than a year after they came out and said, like, this is the biggest
Well,
hiccup?
I mean,
like,
sure,
we can't get
when
past
you're-
this.
When you're in space, you're subjected to more radiation than normally. That's why people just can't stay on like the International Space Station indefinitely. But it's like we have people orbiting Earth right now. Like,
Right now, yeah.
yeah. So I mean, why wouldn't that belt still be a concern for those people? If it was such
Depends
a
how far
concern
out.
at that
It depends
point,
how far
like-
out they're going. I mean, you can orbit Earth without running into that
The
radiation
enemy
belt.
has armed objective apples.
Right, but I mean, these guys would just be passing through it briefly. The same people to actually get into space to be on the International Space Station, they would also have to pass through that same belt.
We have defused
Right.
objective.
So,
Are they actually? Yeah, I mean, are they actually getting there? Like, how do you know that they are actually?
on the International Space Station,
Right.
because you can see that from the Earth. Like you can physically see that with the naked eye, and you can also, if you actually have a telescope, you can see that in
What can you?
space.
I guess I'm talking about Okay, so we're because you can send objects through Van Allen's belt.
Right.
Right, but human being wise, they were saying they couldn't
Well,
figure it out how to
I guess
get human
the-
beings through that. So yeah,
Okay.
you can take capsules. So another theory that I saw, which I don't know, I mean it's a little far fetched for me, but is they had like capsules and certain things that they would send to the moon, and they would drop objects off. So
Okay.
they would just literally control you.
The point I'm trying to make is either are there people on the International Space Station right now? If so, did they pass through the Van Allen belt to get there? And if so, logically, that would mean that we could send people through the Van Allen belt back in the 60s and 70s to get to the moon, so it wouldn't be something that stops us from going through. Because right now people have gone through it and they're on the International Space Station.
Right
Otherwise,
now, right now we
right,
might
but why
be
would
able
the
to.
physical properties change? Like if it goes through metal and stuff, it's like
I'm guessing
physics don't
there's
change.
different material.
Like
I mean, obviously we have advances. I'm guessing material is different. There's some sort of material that we can possibly get through it or something like that. I don't know.
okay.
But when
Okay.
when
Yeah.
when NASA's saying that that's their biggest hiccup to get to the moon is that one belt. Like that's the only thing they're talking about. That's why they can't. The reasoning why they can't get to the moon, and then a year later they solve that problem. I don't think that's a year. Like, a problem you can solve in a year. I mean,
Okay,
today,
so make a-
shit. I mean, yeah. I mean, today. I don't know if there's really anything that's like material-wise and stuff that we can't figure out to do it. But I mean, that was so long ago.
Okay, here's the biggest thing I've got ammo-wise in my back pocket for proof. So if you've got, we've got the Chinese Space Agency, we've got the European Space Agency, we've got the Japanese Space Lab, we've got the Hubble telescope. All of them at one point or another have pointed their various satellites and telescopes to the moon, to the section that NASA said that they landed the Apollo lander on. And they can show, within certain fidelity, that we did, in fact, that there's evidence that something landed on there, that we can see the tracks of the lander, we can see the lander site itself, where it was, we can see the different activity there. They all corroborate it, they all, if you look at the different photos that they've taken over the years, they all mesh up. How would that not jive with us having landed on the moon when we said we did?
Well,
I mean, if China says we did it, then
yeah.
they would never lie.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to say that they would never lie, period. I don't think that they would lie in our favor.
Yeah, that's
No.
what I'm saying.
Correct. Yeah.
Possibly. Like, there's a lot of stuff coming out, or I guess a lot of stuff that I read that the only reason why, like, Russia didn't, like, come out and say the U.S. was lying is because they had secrets of their own that the United States knew about that they didn't want released, so they just let it go.
Right, but I mean, even if that were the case in the 60s and 70s, why would, I mean, this is only in relative history that we would have had satellites capable of actually getting photos that they could show that to the general public. Why would the Chinese, the Japanese, the Europeans, ourselves,
Yeah,
Okay, so
all
say
okay,
that.
so the only evidence that we have from the moon landing is provided by the company that was provided by NASA, right?
And the
I mean, like,
Chinese
actually
and the
from the
European
landing?
Space Agency. Yeah. Like
So
the actual
every-
landing.
Like,
but
like at
people
the,
are
at
confirming
the
that.
evidence from the actual time of the landing, yes, there was only NASA
Yes.
to back that up.
Right.
Right. So
Agreed.
And like I said, as far as like the launch and like entering like orbiting and stuff like that. Like I think we, I think that's, but I think we already had the capability before then to do all that anyway. So I honestly think that from what I was reading, that they could have easily just orbited at a safe distance, manipulated pictures, manipulated video to just pretty much make up the fact that they actually got to the moon. I mean, there's easily, so the only evidence that they have that we land on the moon could easily be manipulated. Because they were further in technology to do that than they were in actually being able to get to the moon. They could easily make videos and images to portray that we made it there. But we were having so many problems getting to the moon. Like, how did it all of a sudden just change in a year? We had easily had the capability to make videos and mess with pictures to make it look like we got to the moon.
Yeah, but if your only goal is to like work on making like a way around getting something done, like these are literally like the smartest people, in the United States, in the world, that are working
And
on
Nazi Germany.
exactly to get us to this point.
Possibly, though. I mean, it depends. I don't know. It's hard to like. I don't know. I have a hard time believing a lot of shit that's going on, like even right now. I mean, certain
okay.
wars and certain,
Here's one
and
more.
that's one
Like,
of the,
this isn't. Here's a point I was going to also make at some point that only just recently came back to me. This is one of the few things I did research about it. Was so if you look over the course of all of the Apollo programs from 11 to 17, and you look at the number of individuals that were involved between mission control, the astronauts themselves, those people that were in NASA just in terms of training the astronauts, were part of NASA period, were part of the contractors or the suppliers to the shuttles themselves. There were approximately 400,000 people that were either directly employed by NASA, involved with NASA, were astronauts, were contractors, for somebody somehow you could even indirectly tie to the shuttle program. Not, to my knowledge, you can correct me on this, to my knowledge, not a single one has ever come out and said, yeah, this whole thing is a hoax, this was all made up, or at least even partially made up, we didn't actually land on the moon, this is all a conspiracy to some degree. And that might not necessarily say anything, but if you look at the different things throughout history that have gotten leaked, look at Watergate, look at the current Trump administration, where we're talking about a couple dozen people, and we can't have a single report that doesn't leak out about some meeting that was held, or some subterfuge that was being performed. How would there be so many people that would have their hand in the cookie jar, and not a single one of them at any point would come out and say, yeah, we didn't actually do that?
There's no proof that there were that many people involved in this process, though.
There were a lot involved in it, and there would have been
There's
a lot
no
more
proof that
making.
there were a lot involved in it.
Well,
so
let's say it was even 1% of that. Let's say there were 4,000 people that were directly involved. There were
you
NASA
can easily
employees,
control 4,000
astronauts.
people.
Can you?
The government?
No.
Absolutely. The
No.
government can't? Oh, that's crazy.
Because I mean,
Absolutely.
you look at just
You're
look
set
at
for
Grisham,
life
like he
until
was
you make a
against
stupid
it.
comment.
That was just one guy,
Yeah.
and you can't tell me there would have been more.
And
than
he's dead.
Just him and 4,000 people. I know, but so they killed off everybody that would have said something or narked on it. Like, how do you
there are
know
a lot
that?
of mysterious deaths
After
around
this
them.
many years, it would have been tough. That's one of the more compelling pieces of evidence for me that we did go Mastic, is the fact that just nobody's came out and said, like, yeah, I was part of the filming, or I was, I helped make the stage, I helped do the broadcast. But another one of the interesting pieces of evidence against landing on the moon was that, I think it was in that documentary, the Conspiracist one, where it talked about the time delay. Did you guys remember
with the-
reading that or hearing
the
that?
4
one?
seconds
that
and
little
somebody telling them to
say
talk.
something one.
Yeah, where it says talk and then they talk. I thought that was interesting.
I gotta be honest with you. I have no idea on that one.
Yeah,
I
it's-
can't speak to that
Yeah,
one.
that one's goofy.
I think so. Dylan wanted us to talk about the shadows, and I read about it a little bit, but I don't really have anything. I don't know if the conspiracist ones make more sense than the ones that are debunking it, but I don't know if you guys have any input.
The
on
only thing that,
why
that
the
I was
shadows
reading,
were
and I read
longer
back
and different
forth,
angles.
but yeah, the only reason why the only thing I read was there's only one light source coming in to the moon.
Hmm.
Hmm.
But then, like, you look at most pictures, and there are shadows going different ways. Almost every picture you can look at, and there's something that's kind of out of place. Like there's a shadow
Or when there should
going
be a
the
shadow,
wrong
there's
direction.
not a shadow.
Or there's a picture of one of the astronauts getting on the ship or whatever, and he's in a big ass shadow, but he is
Hmm.
He's lit up.
completely
Yeah, that's the one I
illuminated.
saw.
He's
So-
lit up.
The episode of Mythbusters where they actually debunk that does an excellent job of like recreating those photos, which you could argue is like how the photos were created in the first place if you genuinely believe that it
Right.
was fake.
Right.
Correct.
But it's
Exactly.
like they set up the light source, a single light source, in the same area with the same topography at a lower scale, and they're able to make exact duplicates of those photos. So that being said, the light in that isn't the issue. Now you could argue that if they could conceivably make
Yeah.
duplicate
They could
photos
make 'em
of that, then absolutely that could have been staged. But to say that the light is just off and stuff when they were able to duplicate it exactly, it is one of those things where it's like the light isn't off. Like they even showed it, like
Well, the
on
only
camera
explanation,
on the TV show.
the only explanation I've ever read, and I got it from that conspiracy episode that I linked to you guys, like that Netflix show, was again, if you refer to the
Just
look,
works
look
from
at
there.
look at how bright the moon is on a full night, right? I mean, how much light
Right.
it actually casts on the surface of
Correct.
of
But there's
Earth.
only one. Go ahead. Sorry.
Right. So I mean, okay. Imagine you had the surface of the Earth, right, and it was completely in a very light gray, almost white. How much light that would reflect? So if you have a mountainous surface that isn't completely flat, I don't think it would be completely absurd to think that light is going to bounce off that and even though there is a single light source, that it wouldn't bounce off in ways that could make shadows
Right.
appear like that.
Like going complete opposite directions with objects that are literally like feet away from each other.
Well,
Yes.
let me okay. Let's say that was true. Let's say that I'm incorrect. That it should just go in a single direction. Let's pretend NASA is going to come up with this grand hoax. Why would something that obvious not appear on their radars? That you've got
Right, not
shadows
the
going
direction.
in two completely opposite directions.
Right, I mean, they've got professional physicists and engineers working for them. Like,
There's some other
understanding how
photos
light
with,
will reflect is
with like the capsule being in a shadow, yet so like everything's really dark. The only thing, but then all this but the only thing you can see that lights up is a sign on the side of it that says United States of America, and on the front is an American flag. So like the whole capsule's dark besides those two things. Like those are clearly like, I don't know, like if you
Clearly visible that it's awkward that
yeah,
it's so
like
visible and
you
everything else
can't
is so dark.
you can't everything else is
Yeah.
like kind of blurry, and it's in a shadow, and then the only like you can, it's tiny but it's so zoomed, like so clear
enemy
you
has
can read
defused
United
objective
States and you
apples.
can see the American flag on the front. Like it's just so weird that
Yeah, I mean,
it's
I just
clear
think
that
it's
the picture was taken to show who was there.
which honestly makes sense. And even if they if they did land on the moon or if they didn't land on the moon, like I could definitely see them doing that no matter what, just because that's such a big moment in history that seeing
But
that
how did
USA
they didn't have
symbol.
the technology to like I guess I'm asking how that is so clear, and then the picture of the actual capsule itself is so blurry.
I mean, like the only thing that I would say is like if it was photoshopped. Like I said, if I could see them doing that, even if they were like if they landed on the moon and they got that picture, then they're like, well, you can't see
Yeah, and then
like
they
the flag or
enhanced
anything like that.
section.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
it's like,
Have you guys ever heard of the rock? The letter C rock?
With Sean Connery.
Or,
Yeah,
no,
and
no, it's not a movie. It's a
that movie's
rock.
spectacular.
There was a picture of a rock on the moon that had a letter C on it, which was later when it first came out. It was just so it was like just a picture, one of the just a generic picture with one of the astronauts. Like in the background, there's like a rock on the moon, and you can clearly see the letter C on one of the rocks. It's like kind of in front of the picture. It's a little blurry because they're focused on the astronaut, but you can clearly see the letter C on this rock, which was released to the public, and then later it was re-released, and the letter C was completely wiped off of that rock, which a lot of people think was like
Taken out objective butter.
a mistake in as far as filming it, and someone messed up and like had the rock backwards or something.
Yeah.
So it's pretty much a prop.
So I
But
will
there's
add further fuel to that fire. One of the
petrol fuel.
pieces that I saw that
Petrol.
one of the pieces that I saw that really kind of helped keep me on the like fence about whether it happened or not, because I'm definitely leaning more towards Masick and Spencer's position that it did. But there is two pictures, one from I believe Apollo 11, and I'm not sure which the other moon landing it was. But essentially, it has the exact same backdrop. It's two completely different pictures, like different angles, but the horizon, both of the horizons match up
Looks the same.
perfectly, which
Yeah.
shows
It's the
a
exact
stage
same
thing.
background.
Yeah, I thought that was crazy.
Yeah. Yes. It's I was reading about that. I didn't write anything down about it, but that was on one of the documentaries I was watching. It's two completely different
We have taken
pictures
both
depicting
objectives.
two completely different things, but the background is exactly the same, and then like the landscape in front of the background is
Stop firing.
completely different. So it's like they changed the landscape, but then they forgot to change the background.
Yeah.
And they match up, like you said, they match them up. I mean, you can look at it and tell it's the exact same background. Like one of them's a little further away, but you can tell like every crease is the same.
Attack the new objectives.
So right now in my game, I am completely dead, but it's not allowing me to respawn. Oh, now it is. For the long time, you just had me
So
looking
I
like
could only
crazy
like
nice.
I had to replace the batteries in my controller. Did anyone say anything about that letter C rock thing?
I just said
Yeah, Demos did.
No, but did anyone respond to it?
Oh, no.
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 Okay, that one I actually know the answer to. The original photo did not have that letter C in it. The letter C was after editing was done for newspapers and magazines, and so that was actually a scan of the original photo. And so what?
Yeah,
people, the most likely answer to that one is after when it was scanned from the original image was it was just like a hair or something. It was
Okay,
just
well,
an
I mean, that
error
doesn't-
an error of the scan of the original image.
So the C didn't exist in the original picture.
Yeah, it didn't. It
Yeah,
was
but
the
how
other
do
way
you
around.
prove-
It
how do you
wasn't
prove
the
this?
C
How do you
wasn't in
prove
the
that,
original
though?
photo? That the
Thanks.
original photo was not that one. I mean,
right,
I guess I don't
seen the
specifically
original
know, but I
photo?
mean, like,
right.
I mean, if you go to the original,
Because what I
Like-
read and what I was watching, it's the complete opposite of that.
Well, I mean,
Like the original
The same
picture came
argument
out
could
with the C
apply,
on it,
though.
and then they yeah. So
where-
that's what I'm
but
saying. Like, so how do you?
where's the evidence to prove that the C picture was first then? Like, if you're just gonna say how do you prove
It's
it?
the same
like,
thing.
well,
There
then
is
how
no,
do you prove it?
yeah,
the
right. There is
opposite?
no evidence either way.
Yeah. So how's it a relevant item then that you would think
Well, I mean, none of
proves
this
that
can
it
be proved
it isn't
either
a
way,
real
I guess.
picture? Like, well, I mean, some of it
How can
can.
you prove it
when
was?
when you see man-made objects on the moon and other space agencies
Which,
that have
which
no
I already talked about.
interest,
You can
right?
right. They do have the capability to take capsules to the moon without human beings. Like they don't have to
So we
worry
have the
about.
capability to
Absolutely, you don't have to worry about the radiation for human beings going through Van Allen's belt. You don't have to worry about
I
it.
still think we're getting hung up on the radiation thing because people are on the International Space Station right now.
That was
that's
the
a hoax.
okay,
Like,
but there are literally quotes from NASA saying that is the biggest reason why.
oh yeah, I'm sure
They
they
are
were
getting
very
hung up.
concerned about it, but
That's the reason why
I mean,
they
you don't
couldn't
wanna-
figure it out.
send astronauts into space and then they die immediately. So
Correct.
Oh, man,
So
there's
then
just
how do
so
they
much
figure that out in less than a year? And then there's no explanation of how they figured it out. There's no like documentation like this is what we did. This is the material we used. Because they
Demas,
said
I
that
mean,
belt can penetrate
that one
the capsule.
actually makes a ton of sense. If we figured out how to get through that belt, why the fuck would we ever tell the Russians that in the middle of the Cold War? Like, I
Because
mean,
it didn't
why
matter
would
at
you
that point. We were the
publish?
first ones there. We were
Right, but
that
if
was
you
their
think
biggest
that they have the
their biggest race
capability to
was
get to
just who could get
space,
there first.
right? But if you think that you're going to be fighting a war in space, which they did, why would you tell the person you're going to be fighting a war in space against how to avoid dying going through that belt?
And then there's another report from 2005 saying one of the biggest reasons why they haven't went back is they still have problems with
Right,
that
but
belt.
again, logically speaking, they still have problems with the belt, but we sent people into space to the International Space Station back in 2005. So I think
don't
we're really
see-
getting hung up on that. Like,
Absolutely.
but yeah,
I mean,
I'm
that's the
saying
biggest
that
reason why
it's
they
not
couldn't
relevant
get there.
to
So
the overall.
absolutely, that is
hoax.
relevant. It definitely
Well,
is relevant.
if it's not relevant in 2005 when we have people in space then, and your argument is it's because of technological
okay?
advances.
They're in.
Like,
Hold on, they're in space, right?
right, and they have to get through the belt to get there. I mean, that they have to pass it, right?
I don't think that because I don't know how far the
Demas' his controller back.
Yeah.
I don't think that the belt is
Oh, he's back.
where the International Space
Yeah.
Station is.
Right, but
From-
what I'm saying is it below that? Do you have to pass through it to get to the International Space Station? I mean, there's a lot of...
So
But I think
uh,
either way, we're not going to
I've
have
done-
a
I've
good
done- I've
answer.
done-
We've
I've
beat the
done some
horse to
research
death.
I've done some research in the interim here, and there's a couple things. So there's two main parts of the Van Allen belt: the inner belt and the outer belt. The inner belt portion, they actually went through in an hour and a half. The space station was shielded itself with aluminum shielding. Yep. No, it's not. It wouldn't have been 10 minutes in the time that they would have done it. Would have been about an hour and a half.
Eh, right, but he didn't just research the topic, too, so...
But first of all, so it's
Yeah.
a relatively short amount of time. The inner belt itself is the more dangerous part. You get through it relatively quick, but that's the more dangerous part.
Dang.
You're shielded from it. And then so the actual when you think about radiation, there's three different forms. This one I'm not going off of Wikipedia right now. So there's alpha rays, beta rays, and gamma rays. So gamma ray is the most dangerous, alpha ray is the least dangerous. So the way I'd actually read it was a sheet of paper will protect you from alpha rays, a block of wood will protect you from beta rays, and gamma ray you would need a lead wall. So different forms of radiation, you need different amounts of thickness to actually prevent penetration. So if you have something metallic, it would protect you from the more dangerous form. So in the case of the penetration. So in the case of the space shuttle or the rocket that they would have got them on, they used aluminum. So aluminum's lighter than lead, it's not as dense. And so that would provide you some protection against some of that radiation. Now, so part of it is they were protected against it, partially, and then just the sheer speed in which they were going through it. So, I mean, in the case of going through the inner belt, which is the more dangerous part, they said the amount of radiation that they would have received from just going in there on the entire trip was about the same as you would get if you were working at a nuclear reactor for a year. So I mean, it's not like you're going to get instant cancer just from that one trip. And then I mean, then I think the more damning evidence, there's a quote directly from Dr. James Van Allen, the guy that they named the belt after, and even he has refuted the claim that it would have been too dangerous radiation-wise for them to have traveled through it.
Yeah, I was gonna say I would doubt that they would publish it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, again, without seeing what the original claim is why they couldn't have done it. I can't speak to that. I don't know.
That's what she said. No, I definitely think it's a...
What, the moon itself?
Enemy coordinates have been sent to our artillery.
Objective must be protected.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have lost objective butter. The enemy has armed objective apples.
Grenade for them! Grenade out! Look like...
We have lost both objectives.
Ah,
The enemies are being halted by our artillery barrage. Retreat.
Or it could have been his greatest failure as well.
I mean,
Like, if
again,
they-
I don't know anything about that in particular, but that.
The enemy is advancing.
I don't know anything about that in particular. That just kind of, in general, just kind of sounds circumstantial, without knowing anything about it. Coincidental would be a better way to put it, I suppose.
Yeah, but that's like a couple fatalities there. Like, you know, the human.
Yeah.
You're a human. You can only take so many. I feel like so much.
Yeah,
damage,
maybe he
pretty
just
much.
couldn't handle it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, dang.
The enemy has armed objective.
I mean, yeah, it's definitely a question, but I can kind of see, you know, both ways from it.
Sniper in the back of me.
Maybe he thought they were going to die. Like, and he just lost it, you know? Like,
Come on, buddy. Come on.
We have lost objective apples.
I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Which, I mean,
Right, but
that
if-
doesn't prove that it.
If
it's,
it was
you know,
a faking,
a
why
hoax,
wouldn't he have come out
it might
and said
just
that?
he might have just actually thought that, and he just couldn't handle it, and he thought he was going to send them and they were going to die, but he was wrong. Right. I'm sure the odds were probably pretty long. I mean, the risk was incredibly substantial to actually do that. So,
Enemy coordinates have been sent to our artillery.
Oh, come here. What? Based on what? Right, but I mean, in the grand scheme of things, there's not. It's pretty simple.
Say less.
I mean, in terms of you just there's a few things you need. You need the actual means to escape Earth orbit and get to the moon in terms of fuel, which they have that. You need the actual mathematics to figure out the trajectory you needed to actually make to actually do it. And that's the simplest part. That's just the math of it. You need the ability to protect them from the Van Allen belt, as we've been talking about. Well, okay, they protected them as best they could. Obviously, it'd be the equivalent of if you had multiple X-rays, but
We have to
again, they
defuse
could do
objective
that part.
Delta.
Then probably the most difficult part was the whole. Okay, so the shuttle needs to, or the lander has to separate from the rocket, has to separate from all those things. Then that has
Yep.
to have the means to get itself off of the moon and do that. Admittedly, that's difficult engineering, but again, it is possible to get enough fuel to get off the moon to then go back to Earth. I mean, it's possible. Bigger target, more gravity pulling you in. So, if they have the means to leave the Earth, we know that they have that capability. They have the mathematical means to figure out the trajectory. That's the simplest part. The only difficult part is the engineering, actually, the segmentation.
pull it
of-
off. Right.
Right. So you get it off. You get it out of Earth. You drop the boosters. You get it close to the moon, you get the lander out of there, and then you go from there. So that I will admit that's the most difficult part.
Right.
But I mean, at the same time, this wasn't done just overnight. This was, I mean, so when Kennedy was president, it was more than a year. I mean, when this was all said and done. I mean, this was.
Yeah,
We started this under
working
Kennedy
for-
at the beginning of the decade. We closed it at the very end. So I mean,
Oh my gosh.
Well, I mean, it was a 10-year process, though. Like,
The enemy has armed objective butter.
I mean, he was dead at that point, and his
was
like.
Was he dead?
We'll find out next week. Ah, man, we almost held him there.
We have defused objective butter.
By almost held him there, I mean we. Oh,
The enemy has armed objective butter.
fuck.
guys,
I
I
mean,
want
he
to
was
win
dead.
one match.
Yeah.
LBJ was
So we've
also
won one.
dead at that point, or not dead. He wasn't president anymore, right? Yeah, LBJ, the guy that was the president after JFK. Yeah.
LBJ wasn't dead in '69.
No. I misspoke. He was no longer the president at that point.
Oh my god.
We have lost both objectives.
What do you think about that?
The enemies are being halted by our artillery.
Yeah, I'm gonna say you're correct. Okay, yeah, in '69,
Yeah.
no, Nixon was president.
So we had a completely different administration. Like, so now we're talking rival political parties. Like,
Enemy coordinates have been sent to our artillery.
Yeah, but I mean,
I-
Nixon of all people would have hated JFK.
yeah.
The enemy is
JFK
Because
literally beat
JFK
Nixon
beat
for the
him.
1960
Yeah,
presidency.
1960.
The enemy has armed objective butter.
I would agree
I
with that,
think- here's
especially
what
at
I
that
think.
time.
Kobe and Nolan have been decidedly quiet in this whole thing. I want to hear more from you two. You guys have the faces for radio. I want to hear what you have to say.
I don't. He does have, and he smells good.
Thanks, guys.
I don't honestly.
He has the side
all
cipher scent for radio.
all the evidence that I looked up against it, I found pretty compelling evidence to debunk it. So I don't have a lot to say against it. So that's kind of why I'm just kind of letting you guys roll with it. I brought up
We
the
have
piece
defused
earlier. I
objective
think you
butter.
had just had your mic die about the two backdrops, which kind of convinced me that maybe there was something
The
more
enemy
going
has
on.
armed objective apples.
But I think the most compelling evidence for me for the moon landings, and I was talking to DeMoss about this earlier, was that in 2012, and again, NASA's the one that released the photos, but in 2012, they had a satellite or something orbiting, some sort of module orbiting the moon from about 15 miles out, and it actually took pictures of the flags that were on the moon. You could see the tracks that were on the moon. You could see some of the rovers that they left behind and stuff. The only one that you couldn't really see was the flag from Apollo 11 because it had supposedly fallen down. But I mean, for me, that just kind of closed my thoughts on that we did make it to the moon. If not Apollo 11, which I'm whatever on, for sure later on we made it. So yeah,
The enemy
Yeah.
has armed objective butter.
Which, I mean, to be fair, you can make a pretty solid argument that the original moon landing, there was a huge incentive to fake that, like, at that point in time.
We have defused objective butter.
Yeah.
The enemy has armed objective butter.
From a technological standpoint, I do. Yeah.
We have defused objective butter.
Yeah.
there is a piece of evidence that I didn't see that I just remembered from like years ago, just looking at it, and it's kind of weird that it was not brought up in any of the debunking things. But have you guys seen the video image of when, I don't know which astronaut is going, but he like trips and then like springs back up like he was like on wires or something of that nature? Have you guys seen that? And they say like
No.
with the gravity that wouldn't have happened. That was a pretty good piece to where I was like, what the heck is going on there? So, but
Yes, the frame rate, yes.
The enemy has armed objective butter.
it looks like normal walking.
We have defused objective butter. The enemy has armed objective butter.
Good
I
job.
got it. I can't believe they let me get that.
Excellent.
That's
That
hilarious.
was really good.
Defend the objective.
Tank coming.
Enemy coordinates have been sent to our artillery.
All right, we've almost got him here.
Grenade out. Look like.
Yeah.
Good job, guys. That was fucking ridiculous. Whew.
Right.
I'm gonna throw this one out there. I think I kind of mentioned this on the thread earlier. I think the conspiracy thing. I think we're gonna have to transition to like a political, religious thing at some point. You want to start mixing things up.
Jesus.
Dude,
Like you want
if
you want to get
guys
you want to
wanna
get
do
Spencer and I
religion,
on different
if
teams
you want to do
and stuff like
religion,
stuff. Well, and what I told Spencer, there's,
there's
a
a
million
buttload of
ass
those.
conspiracies,
Yeah, there is
but
a
you,
buttload,
if you
yeah.
want people to actually believe it, like here's what I told Spencer. There are certain things that if you said you're
Yeah.
what I told Spencer earlier. There's certain conspiracies. There's only a certain number that if you told me you believe in them, that I could think, all right, I can still stay your friend. You're a rational human being, right? Like if you say moon landing fake, okay, there's at least a reason I could accept that you could think that,
Yeah,
right?
correct.
So if you said I think climate change is a conspiracy, okay, I might disagree with you, but at least at least fine. That's something. But if you told me that you believed that the Earth was genuinely flat, like that there was a,
Oh my
grand
gosh.
conspiracy, something like that,
Yeah.
I can't take you seriously.
Which
know,
it clearly
so-
is,
so-
Mastic, so...
Mhm.
I'll be right back, guys. I gotta grab a beer.
Mhm.
Well, I was actually tempted to respond to this when you initially posted it, but then I thought to myself, this is a thread about Battlefield 1, and I'm at work right now. So I'm glad I'm glad you bring this up. So there's two things I would say about that. So one is practical. How do we know it works practically? So we can observe it, right? So, and I don't just mean in the sense of like an apple falls, you see it, that's gravity. I mean there's obviously that aspect to it, but then we have to start thinking about more like complex versions of gravity. So assume gravity is correct. What gravity is saying is that the more mass an object has, the more force it imparts on other bodies to pull it towards it, right? So when you look at the Earth, it has more mass to it than the apple. It pulls the apple towards it. Or rather, it's not that it has more mass than the apple, but that it has more mass than we do compared to the apple. That's why the apple falls to the Earth rather than it falls towards us. So there's the observable aspect to it, and so we also know it's true based on. So if you look at like grander things, so like if you look at asteroids, comets, things that follow a much wider, further orbit, we can predict things, and then we can actually see them years, decades, hundreds of years in
you
advance.
can measure it.
So something like that would kind of preclude the fact that what we're saying is accurate. Now, in terms of what gives something gravity, that's actually kind of what that Large Hadron Collider so that I don't know if you've heard this before. So they were looking for something. They were looking for something called the Higgs boson, which is this.
Yes, the God
like
particle.
Yeah, it was this subatomic particle that allegedly would impart mass onto atoms and things like that. And so that's what they were looking for, and they found evidence to support that it does actually exist. So the all I can say is that they've discovered it. They've said that that's what imparts mass, and for things to have gravity, they must have mass. Now, if you want to go on a more deeper level than that, I can't. Why is there gravity? Why is there mass? I don't think anybody can actually answer that. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
what makes
asking
up
about
black
the nature.
matter?
That's asking about the nature of the universe itself, and I don't think anybody will ever be able to answer that. But I mean, in terms of we know it exists because we see it on a daily level. We know it exists because we can see it in ways that like you and I cannot. Mathematicians and astronomers can see things. We can make predictions on it based on gravity and see that come to pass. And then physicists can actually see, hey, we predict that this subatomic particle exists because it has to, because there must be a reason mass-based particles exhibit gravity, and then we find it. So I mean, other than that, I mean, that's why it's a theory of gravity. It fits everything that we can see so far. It doesn't work across the board, so like subatomic particles don't follow what's known as Newtonian physics. That's why there's a field of physics called quantum physics. But in every scenario that we can think of, it does fit that. Does that
Derek,
answer your question?
Derek, I just want you to repeat one sentence of what Mastic just said. It's all about the subparticles and the flux capacitor.
destroyed one of their tanks.
Objective butter. We have armed objective apples.
Well,
Yeah.
it's definitely a heavy subject. I mean, it's just like there's
Oh,
the
I
simple
see what
parts
you did
of it.
there. Heavy
I
subject,
told you
gravity.
the simple parts of it, but I think it.
I mean, to be fair, like, when was Newton around? Like,
1600.
yes. So there's something that we've been trying to figure out since the
The enemy has
1600s.
defused
So
objective apples.
Throwing a grenade.
it's not like it's an easy subject.
Heads up, grenade out.
Well, I mean, to give you the cliff notes on it, there's 3 parts to it. 1, we know it exists because we see it every day. 2, we know it exists because we can make predictions based on it. 3, we know it exists because the things that we thought make things have gravity, we've discovered they actually do exist.
Run that field gun, he just popped me as soon as he...
And 4 because Stone Cold said so.
Yeah.
Yep.
Same thing, same person.
Have you ever seen Stone Cold and I in the same room?
Exactly.
So we gonna wrap this one up. Go and roll it out.
I think as far as the conspiracy, it's
Moon
pretty
landing.
much-
Yeah. I
pretty
mean,
much
we
done
can, we
for,
can
but-
continue to be entertaining.
I mean, I just smoked somebody there,
Wait
so
for the enemy
that's fun.
artillery barrage to stop firing.
And we can give people a clinic on how to play this game because
Yeah,
we're
without talking
good at
about
it.
moons and beating the Russians. I mean, long story short, the Russians backed down, so even if we didn't land on the moon,
We
Yeah,
won.
we really won.
So-
So fuck those guys.
Attack the new objectives. We have armed objective butter.
in one of the videos that I was watching, did anybody see the one about like the 2 Italian brothers who? basically,
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty creepy to me.
We have defused objective butter.
It was basically they set up like their own little
Did
mission
they jump
control
down
area.
a pipe and save a princess?
Different Italian brothers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But these 2 guys basically set up their own little like mission control, and they were spying. I wouldn't necessarily say that they were spying on Russia, but they were just listening into like what was going on. And a lot of them had to deal with, like a couple of them were.
Armed objective apples.
If the
obviously
other
they were-
tank can fucking help at all, that'd be cool.
Obviously, they were, like the language is in Russian, so they didn't know exactly what it was saying. But apparently, like their sister was speaking speaking Russian or whatever like that. And from what it sounds like, is they sent somebody out into space, and they like basically drifted off. And she was saying, "Am I going to get back? Like, how are you going to get me?" And after she would say that, then it was like radio silence. So basically, what it sounds like is that Russia was trying to do like all these tests, and basically, if the astronauts didn't come back, then they basically just erased them, like they never existed. They were never part of the program.
The enemy has defused objective
You know,
butter.
basically what the mob would do, or KGB, something like that,
Right.
or the United States. Except for we would say, "Oh, it was an accident." They would just say, no. Yeah, yeah."
Yeah.
Yeah, but they debunked that in that same video where they talked about where none of those people are actually lost. The ones in the pictures, not the ones on the recordings, but the ones in the pictures were actually like people that just disgraced Russia apparently, so they just eliminated them from their history, which is stupid. But no, it doesn't address the people that they caught on the recordings.
Right.
Destroy the objective
Which,
now.
and then there was another one there's another recording where
I'm about to get exploded. Fuck.
I think the initial recording that they found was this guy who was doing like a lot of like deep breathing, and one of the brothers was in medical school, and so they took the tapes to this guy's like professor or something like that, and they're like, can you kind of describe why this guy's breathing that way? And
Losing
it was
oxygen.
basically, yeah, it was basically saying, well, he's losing oxygen, like he can't breathe, so.
Jeez.
Oh Jesus.
So,
Attack
I vote
the
we wrap this one up and kind of say where we stand, and then we can go on and discuss other,
Just
expanding
Straight
the
up.
discussion for future episodes.
Let's
Here,
not
Mastic,
even say
sit-
where we're
come
at.
over.
Yeah,
Let's
we can
just
keep
say
broadcasting.
Mastic, lay down.
Relative to where, let's do relative to where we started this evening. Do you find yourself the same
Mastic.
where you were?
Get the fuck.
Thank you, buddy. Thank you.
Yeah. So quit running
Do you find
away.
yourself? Do you find yourself swayed the other direction, stronger the other direction where you were?
Um,
I don't think I
ahead,
was
Nolan.
pretty undecided anyway, and I'm definitely more like. I think we did land on the moon. Even Apollo 11, I think is probably. I lean more towards that than against it.
Yeah, I would say the same way. I was kind of on the fence for it, but kind of listening to Mastic debunk a lot of the stuff. I would say that we
Guy out by the
probably did land
guy
on
by
it.
I got you.
fence.
I killed him.
Okay.
You did.
No,
We have
the floor is
armed
yours.
No, you didn't. You let us down. Well, you didn't give us your input.
Destroy the objective. That's an enemy scout.
The enemy has defused objective butter. We have taken out objective apples.
Objective taken. Be proud of yourselves. Destroy the objective.
We have armed objective butter. We have taken both objectives. Wait for the enemy artillery barrage to stop firing. Return to the combat area. Return to the combat area.
Here, sit tight, Nolan. Oh,
Sorry, man. I
Oh,
was
you're
scout.
fine.
I want to be something different.
yeah.
We have armed objective butter. We have armed objective apples.
I don't think that's bad at all. I think
That's a
that
man
means
that's
you take it
dedicated to the
serious.
craft.
Yeah.
The enemy has
sighted.
We have taken out objective butter.
So I guess I have to ask. So what about it? What about the film?
We have armed objective apples.
Oh, okay. Oh, and you mentioned Space Odyssey at some point, like at the very beginning.
Kubrick.
Oh my gosh.
Man, this heavy machine gun that I'm on right now is fucking ridiculous. Killed so many people.
No problem.
God, I had a fucking monster game there. That was ridiculous. I blew up 3 tanks in that match.
Whew.
Hmm.
I mean, yeah, Stanley Kubrick's an awesome director.
Oh, I thought you were gonna make it simpler than that. I thought you were gonna say that because he made Space Odyssey something that technologically advanced for a movie, that he could film something like that. Okay.
Hedefin savunulması lazım.
Enemy coordinates have been sent to our artillery.
Hedefi müdafaa edin.
been sent to our artillery.
Düşman makinalı tüfeği.
Mm.
Hedefi müdafaa edin.
That horse just died so hard.
I know, I killed him. A glue factory, the son of a bitch.
Bir makinalı tüfeğe doğru bakıyorum.
Oh man, this sniper rifle is so fucking good.
Enemy coordinates have been sent to our artillery.
Yeah, the audio thing. Yes, that one. Yeah, I agree. That one's weird. Like it's hard to explain.
Kimsede mühimmat mevcut mu?
Enemy coordinates have been sent to our artillery.
Mm.
Oh fuck! Hold my shot.
2 on A.
The enemy has armed objective butter. We have defused objective butter.
Bomba gönderiyorum.
The enemy has armed objective apples.
Mastic, you want to drop an ammo pack? I'm running to you.
Okay.
Not in the middle of no cover. Mastic, drop an ammo pack, please. Okay, thank you.
We have lost objective apples. The enemy has armed objective butter.
Hmm. Well, I mean, you were talking, so we kind of had to listen.
Yeah, I didn't want to interrupt you.
Can't have too many people talking at the same time.
We have lost both objectives.
Oh my gosh. Artillery truck.
But yeah, so what I'm gonna do, probably just gonna stop this stream so that way we can save it and then probably just continue to stream. You guys gonna be up for a while?
Mhm.
No, that's gold.
No,
right
that's
there.
It's on the record. It's
Well, you just kept.
The enemy is advancing.
Reading game at the same time.
it was like stream of consciousness. It's okay.
I think you did a great job. I think you all did a great job. Personally, I think that the 5-person stream is a good idea. Any more than that,
Yeah.
it's just too many people. But
It's all over the place.
yeah, that'll do it. You guys have anything you want to say? Derek, you said enough, so just shut the fuck up.
quick shout out to local Albia Brewing Company for their Nitro Milk Stout. It's not the worst thing I've ever drank. It's pretty good.
Spectacular.
No, that was a different one.
And we're